What if you found evidence of a crime and your own name was on it, but you had no memory of being there? What if the biggest cover-up in your city's history had your signature all over it, and you were the only one who didn't know? Detective Sara Okafor was about to find out that sometimes the most dangerous cases are the ones that find you. This is that story. Every police station has one. A file that sits at the bottom of a drawer, gathering dust, passed from detective to detective like something nobody wants to touch. Not because the case is cold, but because the case is dangerous. Detective Sara Okafor had been on the force for 11 years. She had worked homicides, fraud, organized crime. She had seen things that had changed the way she looked at the world, but she had never touched the Whitmore file. Nobody had. Not in 7 years. Until the morning it landed on her desk. No explanation, no note, just the file, placed there overnight by someone who had access to the building, and apparently no concern for their own safety. Sara picked it up slowly. The Whitmore case, 7 years old. A man named Gerald Whitmore found dead in his car on the edge of Collier Park. Ruled a suicide. Case closed within 48 hours. Fastest closure in the department's history. Sara had been a junior officer when it happened. She remembered the whispers, the way senior detectives had avoided eye contact in the corridors that week, the way the file had simply disappeared from active cases without explanation. She opened it now for the first time and immediately understood why nobody had wanted to. Gerald Whitmore had not been a nobody. He had been the chief financial auditor for the city council, a man with access to every financial record, every budget, every transaction the city had made for the previous decade. And 3 days before his death, he had submitted a formal request to meet with the Independent Oversight Commission. The request had never been acknowledged. Sara turned the page and found something that made her sit very still for a very long time. A handwritten note, tucked inside the back cover of the file. In handwriting she recognized immediately. Her own. Sara stared at the note for a long time. It was her handwriting. Unmistakably. The slightly uneven capital letters. The way she always crossed her sevens. The particular loop she made on the letter G that her academy instructor had spent 3 weeks trying to correct. But she had never written this note. She was certain of that. It said, "Sara, you were there that night. You just don't remember. Check the evidence log. Box 7. What is missing will tell you everything." She turned it over. Blank on the other side. She sat back in her chair and looked around the office, her colleagues going about their morning, coffee cups and keyboards and the ordinary sounds of a working day. Nobody was watching her. Nobody that she could see. She pulled up the evidence log for the Whitmore case on her computer. It took her 4 attempts to find it. Filed under a case number that didn't match the file itself. Another irregularity in a case full of them. The log listed 9 items of evidence collected from the scene. Box 7 was listed as personal effects, notebook, contents unspecified. She requested the evidence from storage. The response came back in 11 minutes. Box 7, not found. Last recorded location, evidence room B. Last recorded movement, 7 years ago. Officer responsible. Okafor S. Sara. Read her own name on the screen 3 times. She'd never been to evidence room B in her life. She stood up slowly, picked up her jacket, and walked out of the office without telling anyone where she was going. She needed to find that notebook, and she needed to find out what she had apparently done with it 7 years ago. Evidence room B was in the basement of the old annex building, a part of the station that had been officially decommissioned 4 years ago when the department moved to a new facility 3 blocks away. The door was locked, but the lock was old. And Sara had spent 2 years on the burglary unit. It took her 40 seconds. Inside was exactly what a decommissioned evidence room looked like. Rows of shelving, numbered boxes, dust on every surface, the smell of old paper, and something metallic she couldn't name. She found the shelf for the Whitmore case in 6 minutes. Box 7 was exactly where the log said it should be. She opened it with hands that were steadier than she expected. Inside was a notebook, small, black, the kind you could buy in any stationery shop, and a photograph. The photograph showed a car park, nighttime, taken from a distance with a long lens, 3 figures standing beside a dark saloon car. Sara recognized the car park immediately. It was behind the old courthouse on Meridian Street. She had parked there 100 times. She looked at the 3 figures. The first was Gerald Whitmore, recognizable from his file photograph. The second was a man she didn't recognize. Tall, expensive coat, face turned slightly away from the camera. The third figure was her, 7 years younger, in her junior officer uniform, standing with Gerald Whitmore and an unknown man in a car park at night. Sara sat down on the floor of the decommissioned evidence room and looked at the photograph for a very long time. She had no memory of this, none at all. She opened the notebook. Gerald Whitmore's handwriting, neat and careful and completely certain of itself. The first page said, "If you are reading this, then something has happened to me. I am leaving this with the only officer I trust. She doesn't know yet what she saw, but she was there, and when she remembers, she will know what to do." Sara turned the page and began to read. Gerald Whitmore's notebook contained 4 years of careful, meticulous documentation. Every irregular transaction he had found in the city council's accounts, every budget that didn't balance, every payment made to companies that didn't exist, for services that were never delivered. £47 million, moved quietly and carefully over 4 years through accounts that only a chief financial auditor would ever think to look at. And at the center of it all, one name: Commissioner David Reeves, head of the city's police department, Sara's ultimate superior, the man whose photograph hung in the entrance of every station in the city. Sara read the notebook twice, then a third time. Then she sat in the quiet of that decommissioned evidence room and let the full weight of it settle. Reeves had not just been aware of the corruption, he had orchestrated it, used his position to ensure the Whitmore case was closed before it could become a case at all, had apparently arranged for a junior officer, her, to be present at a meeting with Whitmore the night before his death. A meeting she had no memory of. She thought about that carefully. A meeting she had no memory of. She had been 26 years old, new to the job, eager. She had worked late most nights that week. She remembered that much. She remembered getting home very late on a Tuesday, feeling unusually tired, sleeping for 12 hours straight. She had assumed it was the job. She had never questioned it. Until now. Sara stood up, put the notebook and the photograph in her jacket, closed the box, left everything else exactly as she had found it. She walked back upstairs into the thin winter sunlight. She had one phone call to make. One person she trusted completely and entirely outside the reach of Commissioner Reeves. A journalist named Patrick Webb, who had been investigating city council finances for 3 years and had told her once over coffee that he was missing something. Something central. Something that would make everything else make sense. She dialed his number. He answered on the second ring. "I have it," she said. "All of it." Can you meet me in an hour? A silence. Then, where? Anywhere that isn't the city, she said. Bring everything you have. Commissioner David Reeves was arrested on a Friday afternoon in February, quietly, professionally, by officers from an external force, requested specifically to avoid any conflict of interest. The story ran the following Monday. Every detail, every transaction, every carefully documented irregularity that Gerald Whitmore had spent 4 years compiling and one night trying to hand to someone who could use it. Sara Okafor was commended for her role in breaking the case. She accepted the commendation quietly. That evening, she drove to Collier Park, parked where Gerald Whitmore's car had been found 7 years ago, sat for a long moment looking at the dark tree line. She still had no memory of that Tuesday night, of the meeting in the car park, of whatever Gerald Whitmore had said to her that he had trusted her enough to remember. But she thought, perhaps, that was all right. He had trusted her to do the right thing when the time came. And she had. She started the car, drove home through the quiet Friday evening streets, and somewhere, in the space between one streetlight and the next, she thought she felt something, like a weight she had been carrying without knowing it, finally, quietly, setting itself down. That was the unseen hour, a story about the cases nobody wants to touch, the truth nobody wants to find, and the people who find it anyway. Some files sit at the bottom of a drawer for a reason, but the right person always comes along eventually. Subscribe to The Unseen Hour. A brand new story is coming very soon. And remember, the cases that matter most are always the ones nobody wanted to solve. Good night.